So my name's Gabe Johnson. I'm the Maui County Council member for the island of Lana'i. Nice to see everyone, and I'm so glad you guys are here joining us. My committee is ADEPT, which is Agriculture, Economic Diversity, Environmental Bills, and Public Transportation. And I'll go through a little bit of some of the things in my council or in my committee that I have purview over, and we'll see if this fits in how we can help you folks achieve your goals. So public transportation and public inter-island transportation within the county and within the state is under my committee. Protection, preservation, and enhancements of the environment, including recycling, watersheds, wetlands, but excluding energy issues. Prevention of deforestation, drought, carbon emissions, pollution, and other related contributors to climate change. Ecology, including the relationships between animals, plants, and other living organisms within their physical surroundings. Conservation and protection of agricultural lands, promotion of diversified agriculture, increase agriculture self-sufficiency, and assuring the availability of agricultural suitable lands, workforce development and economic diversification, farm dwellings and ag water. I also oversee the Department of Ag, the Environmental Protection and Sustainable Division of the Department of Environmental Management, the Department of Transportation, and we implement, looking at implementing the following general plan objectives like diversity of transportation options and protecting the natural environment. So that's a lot for one committee. But if you thought I had a lot, I'm going to pass it over to Councilmember Sinenci, who has a big on his plate as well.
Hey, mahalo, Councilmember Johnson. Aloha, everybody, and mahalo for having me this morning. I'm Shane Sinenci, and I'm the East Maui County Council representative. I chair the WASSP committee, or the Water Authority, Social Services, and Parks Committee. Under my committee, we have jurisdiction over issues that relate to social services, and also the implementation of the county's general plan objective of strengthening social services and healthcare services. We also have oversight over the Human Concerns Division of the Department of Housing and Human Concerns. So I'm very appreciative of all the work that you do, and I look forward to learning more from you today. As part of this listening session, I look forward to hearing about our immediate community issues that you personally address, and the services that you provide. Also, if we could get a feel of those gaps in services, and that areas that we as government officials can provide support and support the work that you're currently doing. So, mahalo.
All right, everybody. Good morning. I'm Axel. I work for Councilmember Gabe Johnson. And before we get started, we're gonna have a second half where we're gonna have more of an open-ended Q&A to hear from you folks. But I just wanted to facilitate a 20-minute activity just to kind of encourage the discussion and make sure everybody, gets a chance to share. So what we're gonna do is I posted a Jamboard link into the chat, and for those who aren't familiar with Jamboard, it's basically like a virtual whiteboard. So we can kind of add sticky notes and things like that. It's a great tool for brainstorming. And what we're going to do is break out into groups of about 3 people. Each group is going to have their own Jamboard. So I'll just share screen really quickly to show you guys what it looks like. So that link is in the chat. And so what we have here is the Jamboard. It looks like a lot of us are in here already. And so when you're in your groups, your breakout room will be numbered, from 1 through 4. And so based on that, just go to the Jamboard that represents your group. And as you're in your groups, we're just asking to kind of hear your thoughts on some of these questions that relate to, the main point of this listening session is to hear how we can support you folks. And these Jamboards, hopefully we can refer to later as staff, and we can, try to draw some of your notes later as we're trying to put together policy or funding. We're not going to collect identifying information. It won't be shared out of our own office, but it would be a great tool to kind of just hear what you're thinking. So here's a tool where you can add sticky notes and put in any of your thoughts. and it'll add in here, and you can kind of move things around. And then we'll just kind of ask you folks as we'll give you about 10 minutes. You can have a discussion within your groups. And after 10 minutes, we'll call you all back in the main room. And if you guys can select one person from your group to share out, we'd love to just hear your thoughts, the highlights from your discussion. So are there any questions on that? So I just gotta check chat over here.
How do we know which group we're in, Axel?
So Jaden is going to help us get into breakout groups in just a minute. But before I send you off, I wanted to make sure no questions. Okay, I'm seeing no questions. It looks good. Some person can't see the Jamboard. Let me make sure I get that in chat one more time.
Axel, before we do that, Gina wrote in the chat. Maybe you guys can speak on that, Gina or Shane.
Gina, is this for Monday?
Yeah, I posted the agenda of the presentations that we'll have on local social services and the link to the meeting that's online, but also it's in person at the county council chambers.
And we're going to have CNHA present those programs that they're sharing at their site, kind of their hub here in Kahului. Thank you, Gina.
Okay, well, good thing we're gonna have more time to share. I know we probably can't cover all the issues you folks are dealing with in 10 minutes, I'm sure. But it was just to kind of start the conversation and really make sure, I guess, to stimulate the discussion and give everybody a chance to kind of share in a small group before we go to a larger format where maybe it'll be harder for some people to participate. But we had 4 groups. So I'm going to just try to call out a group number, and hopefully somebody from that group can come out and just share some highlights from your discussion. And then around 11:30, hopefully we can wrap up this activity and then just go into more of like a Q&A with the council members on any follow-ups you guys might have. So let's start with group 1. Group 1, what were some highlights from your conversation?
We didn't get a chance to pick someone. Gina, you were listening. Do you want to share? Would you want one of us to?
No, I'd love to share. There were some great things. We started off by, I heard a lot of talk about the immense lack of existing mental health services on the island. Some of it was made worse during the pandemic. And then how existing resources have been inundated. I heard a comment about the importance of paying attention to our culture and working with that. How all this trauma can lead to self-medication and internal anger, which I know leads to depression. Our workforce shortage, our economy revolves around tourism, which doesn't really support the growth of local social services workforce, and the need to attract people and train them. And those people need compassion and the desire to serve others. And if there's a desire to find people that maybe have been displaced by the fire, left unemployed, but have those traits that could be trained up. There's a quick talk about aunties and tutus that have, childcare and other skills and real life experience. And if we can tap into those people and bring them in. Nice. If anybody else wants to add to from our group, go ahead.
Cool. Thanks, Gina. Looks like you did a good job. And if you guys want to follow up on those later during Q&A, that'd be great. And I also want to invite people, if you're hearing one group speaking and something really calls out to you, or maybe you're like, oh, we tried that last year. Here's an additional information or context. I just want to invite anybody to go into their Jamboard and feel free to add to it. Because again, we just want to use these as reference points future when we're trying to remember, what we learned today. So if you feel like anything that group 1 said speaks to you, or you have something to add, feel free to go into their Jamboard and add anything. Let's go on to group 2. That was Gabe, Glenda, and Julian.
Well, you guys want to start, Julian or Glenda? I was. Oh.
Okay. Well, we kind of was just well, we were just introducing ourselves and kind of seeing, well, I'm from Maui and then Glenda's from Lāna'i. And then we were just kind of having conversation about housing and just kind of, we're just in this to listen and kind of get information on how we can better assist the families or the people that we work with. And just, for myself, I wanted to know how I can better help assist the families who was affected from the Lahaina fires, who aren't able to get all benefit from the funding that's available because they don't have any documentation of residency. Was kind of what we were going over. And then yeah, I mean that was it. Anything else to add, Glenda?
We also discussed as far as the councilman's term, a 2-year term, if that's effective, if that gives the councilman enough time to actually execute and get things done, and it sounds like it is. I mean, so hopefully Gabe and everyone else can share that during Q&A.
Nice, yeah, and we'll be sharing, some resources that you can share with, some of your clients for advocacy, right? That's also part of the point of this, is to help share how you can help advocate with the county council, like how Gina was sharing about the meeting that's coming up on Monday. Might be good opportunities for your guys' communities. So let's go on to room 3. Karen, Keolamau, Leilani, and Marshall.
I'll go ahead. So let me just get back to my screen here. So for us, we worked on question number 3, what are challenges we can help with? Started out with that first. And so one of the things that we talked about, it was the fact that the challenges is with the county and the state is a lot of red tape that we need to go through to get, the support for our families and to be able to help to meet their basic needs. So facing that and the pushback that we get from the state. Another thing that we talked about also was our families and the challenges that they face in providing for their families. And these are working families that try to keep a roof over their heads for their children, even try to feed their children. The challenges that they have to go through, and most of these families their income is subsidized. Like for instance, if they need to have food stamps, but they can't get food stamps because they're $2 over. Or they have to have HUD subsidize their rent. Their rent can be $3,000, but they can only afford $500. It doesn't make sense. And especially these families want to be independent. So our challenges our family faces being able to provide for their families independently without depending on these subsidies. Then we went on to how else can the county support us by actually, better pay. One of the challenges that our county has faced and our state faces and continues to face is that we lose a lot of good doctors and therapists and counselors. Or even to attract our people that serve as doctors and therapists and counselors, even just to keep them. So these are the things that we were talking about, and we didn't get a chance to go to the first question, but these are our, the challenges. And I don't know if Leilani wants to add, or Karen, if you want to add anything else that I may have missed.
Yeah, that you basically covered it all. I think it came full circle. Kind of what we were trying to get at was there's a lot of red tape set up by not the county specifically, but the state level. There's a lot of red tape, which makes our jobs harder to connect to the people, because sometimes we try to do something and then it's a no-no from the state level, which gets in the way of the daily work. And then there's a lot of administrative burden put on that because we have to do loads of paperwork, but what we're really doing is nothing. It's just paperwork. And then the families, they're all, the Hawaii in general is in need of housing crisis. I mean, but then we put these families who are already in dire situations of brink of foster care, substance abuse, violence, lack of jobs, lack of resources, lack of education, and now they can't even have a place to live. You know, that's ridiculous. And then that creates even more burden. And then us as the working people also who are in this field, what about us? Our salaries aren't the best. We pinch pennies just to survive, you know, having a home. I'm from here, moved off islands, came home back to Maui a couple of years ago, and it's hard as hell to live here, you know, based on coming back to this organization. So I think it's full circle. If, you know, we should be compensated for the work we do. Our families should not have to feel like they cannot survive on their islands. And then the state should realize this and not operate in such an archaic 1940s way. That's what I think. So, council members, I hope you're listening to us because this is what we actually need to do our job sufficiently and to make sure that our native population stays here on the islands and actually thrives. So, thank you.
Thank you, Leilani.
Thank you so much for sharing. Hopefully we can circle back on a lot of those ideas because I think you touched on a lot of important things. But for now, let's go to room 4. Nicole, Roxanne, and Tina.
Okay, I don't know where the rest of my group members went. But we started with the first one about how can the county support, build, and maintain social service workforce. So back in the day, there was, you know, you were assisted with your tuition. Your payback was you put in X amount of time working for a state agency or, you know, whatever it was. I'm back to talking about that. I think this is has been my mantra for I don't know how long. But I think that type of programming needs to happen again. Even if it's many are the state agencies, I look to our council members to how can we assist with that process. So if I'm living on the mainland and okay, I want to go back home, but I need to get an education, I want to be able to see that okay, I can go back home because we have this brain drain. We don't have enough mental health providers, counselors, etc. Like Pua's group talked about. But so if I need tuition, housing, assistance with food, you know, how can they help me with that? And depending on how much that gift of a tuition type thing is, if I get, you know, a repayment can be, if I getting an AA degree, then I may need to put in 2 years. You know, if it's enough for me to get a bachelor's, then maybe I put in 4 to 5 years. You know, master's 5 to 6, PhD, you know, and so on. Or a big chunk of it can be paid back that way. But really, it's, and I understand that, you know, we're talking to county council, but whatever needs to happen in our charters, in you know, whatever the current rules are, I think we can all think outside the box, talk about it, and make the changes so that we can support what's happening on the ground in Maui. That's what we need help with. The other thing is even like for DHS, yes, another state agency, but back in the day, we had pay differential. So if you were, you know, you had a bachelor's in social work, you work for Department of Health, you know, you get paid X amount. But if you sign up with CWS, your pay differential is a couple $100 more, you know, but same level, etc. It's just that they had that additional pay. Why that stopped? You know, probably the budget. But, you know, our budget really shows what is important, right, to the state. So maybe we got to put more back into that budget. I have a lot of thoughts on that, but that's personal thoughts I cannot share here. And just again, rethink, thinking outside the box. Just because it's been done this way for 20, 30 years doesn't mean it has to continue that way. And I don't know how to make sure that this continues based on the terms, current term of service for council members. But again, I'm up to thinking outside the box, changing the rules, getting those rules done, and moving forward, because we have a brain drain here in the state, on island. We're seeing all these people come in right now, especially with Altris hiring, and it looks like a nice chunk of money per hour, but they don't get any benefits either. What's going to happen? So once the emergency is done, how long will they be here? Are we going to be back to where we started? We need the bodies, and we want to keep those who are here, help them to graduate, to get their higher education, if this is the social service field that they want to go into. And then those who want to move back home from the continent, what can we offer them to bring them home? So it's not like, the challenges that, I'm sorry, I think Lāna'i had just spoke about. So it's all on my Jamboard for Group 4. Mahalo.
Thank you for sharing, Tina. I think that's, one thing the council members can do and the council can do is implement the budget and funding, or not implement, but, amend the budget and think of funding. So it's a good time to really have those conversations with the members, and maybe that idea can become a reality when budget session comes around again in March. So thanks everybody for participating. I'm going to pass it back to Councilmember Johnson and Councilmember Sinenci. They can give a quick response on what they heard, and then if you folks have any further Q&A, just please use the raise hand function in Zoom, or raise your hand, and Jaden's going to help me just with calling out people as she sees them, and we can just have a less formal Q&A talk story kind of session. So thanks everybody again. Back to council members.
Okay, thank you, Axel. That was really great data or experiences you guys are sharing with us with the boots on the ground. So basically, I often say this, so sorry if you've heard me say it before, but there's 3 things that a council member can do for you. First thing you do is it's budget, right? We can fund projects, we can fund programs that help our community, right? So budget season, like Axel said, is coming up in March. If you guys have proposals, send them out to some council members, have them champion it for you. I just mentioned the 12-bedroom dorm we funded for the Aloha House to help folks who are struggling with drug addiction. All right, so that project is moving forward. We funded that project. You're going to have a 12-bedroom dorm helping out people who are experiencing houselessness and drug abuse. And I can't wait for that project to get up and running. And that's the first thing we can do. That's one of our strengths, is funding projects and programs. Second thing we can do is change a law, make a law. Is there something that is inhibiting you guys from doing your job that's a county law? I wrote a bill called the Decriminalization of Houseless Bill, where the county doesn't fine you money for sleeping in a county park. It used to be if you're houseless and you slept in a park, we'd give you a ticket that you'd have to pay money for. If you're houseless and you're sleeping in a park, the whole point of that is you don't have money. So then you're getting a ticket that has money, a monetary value, and then when you don't pay it, you get a bench warrant, and then you go to the jail, and then that costs what, $200-$300 a night to keep someone in prison. That's crazy. It doesn't make any sense. So we changed that bill. And the third thing we can do is use the bully pulpit. In fact, after this meeting, I'm going to go and do that. I'm going to make a PSA, right, about the fire. Using the bully pulpit, talking to people in the community about issues that are affecting you guys as your programs and the things that you're doing in your jobs. Maybe people don't know how many houseless people or how many people are being abused. Maybe they don't know that there's all the things that the diseases of despair we talk about, right? And we have to educate them. So if we have those uncomfortable conversations, we educate people that what you need to do when you're feeling behavioral health issues or mental health issues, reach out. Here's the number to call. Do that. We county councilors can do that because we got the mic, right? So that's one thing that folks in your shoes can speak to us about and say, you know, did you know that this, like an example I often say is like 90% of houseless women have experienced violence or sexual violence. I mean, that's a shocking statistic, and and if we talk about that as a community, maybe we can do something about it. So the bully pulpit is a thing that I say, please use me for. We'll talk. You know, this is a great example of what we're doing today, right? But that's those are the three big things that I think council members can do. And I guess before I turn it over to Councilmember Sinenci, one thing I do want to speak on is what Tina was mentioning about the pay. You know, the pay of the folks that you guys are doing. It's not a livable wage. I understand that. I've tried to raise county workers' wages, and this is the bizarre scenario that I'm in. During budget season, they say there's no more engineers to build to do the engineering for affordable housing projects. Okay, let's fund some engineers. Well, it turns out we have engineer positions there. They're just not filled. We have the money, just nobody applied. Why? Oh, because the wages are too low for engineers. You'd rather go private practice for an engineer. Okay, well then let's make it competitive with private practices. Oh, then the union gets involved. That's not something we can just do. You know, like all of a sudden the union is pushing back on me for trying to raise the wages of their workers. It doesn't make any sense. So that's kind of like the struggle that I deal with as a council member, trying to bring up the livable wage for folks. But I've written bills that we send to the state where the county would decide the minimum wage instead of the state. If you recall, the state is so slow in increasing the minimum wage. Let the counties do it. The wages between Big Island, Hawaii, and the wages between Maui are far apart. So we should, like the cost of living, I should say, the cost of living on Big Island is much cheaper than here on Maui. So the wages should reflect that. So those are some things that I wanted to speak out, and I guess I'll turn it over to Councilmember Sinenci after this.
Mahalo, Councilmember Johnson, and yes, mahalo for all of your input. And I'm on the Social Services Committee, so in my committee we can go ahead and highlight some of these issues and brainstorm some of these solutions that you to the issues that you brought up. I did want to. I know you mentioned some of the state challenges that you all have. So as council members and the council as a whole, we can go ahead and urge our state representatives to act on our behalf. As for the county, I would want to know from you, you know, what are some of the county issues, and that maybe we can go back and work with the housing department. We can work with individual cases of red tape and specific to county programs. We do want to help to understand, or we can kind of show people and to better understand what kinds of programs are out there and see what can be done with each of these programs if there are any issues or anything for us to push through. We also can write legislation to establish new county programs. So if you feel like some of you, and again, mahalo, we do want to support our healers and our practitioners, mental health practitioners out there. So all of the things that you told us about housing, better pay, better wages, those are the types of things that we as council members want to help you so you can do the job that you're doing, the vital job in addressing our most vulnerable community members. So we also can write new policies that can address some of these gaps in our services. And I think just to basically raise awareness, this is the first time I'm hearing as a new committee chair for this, for social services. So having it, just putting it out there to our public and raising awareness and educating all of our leaders in county government as well as state government. So looking forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
there's a chat conversation going on about the boards and commissions, and thanks, Gina, for the response. That's what we kind of thought, but then it feels like from the time, okay, we can call you. It feels like from the time that last election happened when this passed until currently, people just get the, we'll hold your application for 2 years and never hear anything else. And yeah, and so there was like this void of, do they not want Ho'oikaika's input or what's going on?
I wonder if maybe you could explain who is in charge of the process now, because our understanding with the previous administration, it was somebody in the mayor's office. And I don't know if it's still that way or if the person has changed. Is anyone able to? And we can definitely follow up with you, Gina, but maybe you could let us know now too.
Do you want me just to jump in, Gabe and Shane, and talk a little bit about the nominations board? Okay, so what you're referring to is a charter amendment that passed in the last election that created what's called a nominations board that will now accept all of they'll go out, recruit, and accept all of the applications for the various boards and commissions. They'll be the one doing the vetting of the applications and then sending it on to the mayor's office and the council. That became effective in July. So they are still getting members to sit on that board. And that's what's taking so long. So there are no, from what I understand, there aren't appointments being made because they're getting this board set up. And with the fire, everything has kind of been slowed down because one, the person that is in charge administratively of taking care of all this is now working with all the other boards that are having issues with meetings. One of the steps in establishing this board is that everybody that gets nominated on a board has to file a financial disclosure and go through the board of ethics, which is a whole nother step. So it takes a lot of time, but I know they're working on it. And it will be another step with the board appointment process. But the whole point of setting it up was just to open up the field and to make it more of a equitable process where it wasn't so much on a political appointment as much as what your application said. So that, and I know that's taking time. I don't have any updates on where they're at with it, but if anybody has anything specific they want to give me a call on, I can try to find out some information. I do know that person that's dealing with that in the mayor's office is really overloaded right now, just trying to get the boards to meet, and she's finally starting to circle back around to things too. So I've even had a hard time just getting updates from her.
Gina, is the question more trying to get on any specific board? Maybe Deb can answer that.
Yeah, well, I think the larger issue is we understand there may be lots of people who apply and, various qualifications, but it's really just understanding the process of selection and getting a response even. But it sounds like things are in motion and that's encouraging. And I will follow up with you, Gina, if that's okay. And we'll keep on it on our end. And before we wrap though, I just want to kind of throw out one other possibility, something that some of us have been talking about in Ho'oikaika Partnership in our Public Education and Advocacy Committee, which Karen and Tina both serve on, and others who aren't here today. And that is, was mentioned too in our discussion, we need a plan. We really need a plan for how are we going to address this workforce crisis. And I don't know if there is a plan already, not just the workforce crisis, but also the mental health issues that are really at the forefront for all the families. The two go hand in hand, right? Because the need is outweighing the resources. And I just wonder if there's interest from people here. If you are interested in working with Ho'oikaika partners on this issue and with our council members I'm hoping that maybe we can continue. Obviously, a 1 hour discussion today is not going to be sufficient. It's just the beginning. But if maybe we can pull together a convening, we can have a way to work together to really move some of these solutions forward. So yeah, please put in the chat. I'm going to save the chat if you're interested, and I will be more than happy to follow up with our council members and our committee and see what we can do working together. So I want to thank you both, council members and your teams, for being so supportive and coming today and listening to us. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Deb. And I just wanted to say, for those boards and commissions, we've always, and Gabe and I, and some of the other members, we've always tried to promote more gender equity. So if you're not getting a response from the administration, go ahead and send us your application as well, because if it comes up for approval for the council, we can look at it and say, hey, this board is, majority men over women, and we feel we've got this, maybe we should be, having more gender equity, or we need more representation from areas that might suffer more from mental illness issues. So if, hey, we're overloaded on one district, maybe we need to have representation where we see the need in Lahaina or in Paia. So we could, with you guys, provide a lot of the data and the information for us to try and push new policies, which would then push for more budget to fund those policies. So we're happy to, if you guys want to come on, we can have Ho'oi Kaika Partnership come and maybe do a presentation for the other council members. Thank you.
Okay, I guess I'll just add, as far as the boards and commissions, yeah, I know that, like what Gina was saying, the administration, I'm not making excuses, they might be really busy with the fire and how they're agendizing the boards, but in the meantime, I would really recommend, and you guys are probably already doing this, and that's probably great, is that should go to the boards and commissions and then start, testifying and speaking up. And when that happens, you see the way their processes work, and you see, who are the allies that you can work with. And then, I often tell people that I started my, county experience was on a board and commission. I worked on the board and commission for Americans with the Disabilities Act. And I tried to get on the Lāna'i Planning Commission, and they said no. So, but that's okay, because they said, what about this commission? And I was just there to serve. I said, okay, I don't know anything about that, but I'm willing to learn. I sat on that board and commission board for quite some time, and it was so rewarding to get the sidewalks made for people who needed it. Get a wheeled handicap parking stalls in the community. That was like very rewarding, and I kind of got hooked. So I think that I just applaud you guys for even thinking of doing that, because it is unpaid, and the meetings sometimes in certain commissions the meetings do go long. They can be contentious, but it can be very rewarding, because it is really kind of boots on the ground, bottom up. We would write letters to the police chief and say, you need to do this, and write letters to the fire chief, you need to do this. And when you saw that stuff happen, it was really rewarding. So I really enjoyed it. I would encourage all of you folks to do it. So thank you for that. And I saw the emails that you guys were interested, so that got me excited.
Mahalo nui loa. Thank you so much. This is just the beginning. So more to come. And thank you, everyone, for your service in the community. We know how hard it is out there right now. And I'm glad you're here today, taking care of yourselves, filling up, connecting. And I hope you have a good rest of the day, and that we'll see you later in the afternoon at our closing sessions. Aloha.